Hi everybody, I'm back again with another episode of Crafting Leaders, and today we have with us Nihansh Bhat, who leads corporate development for KRAFTON India. Hi Nihansh and welcome to Crafting Leaders.
Thank you, Manva. Thank you for having me.
Nihansh, I know that you're not just an avid gamer but a passionate gamer. You don't just play games but you have a lot of knowledge about games. Am I right?
Hopefully, yes.
Okay, great. So I'm going to catch you on the seat now and ask you a couple of gaming trivia questions. What was the first Indian game development studio?
This is, I think, probably Dhruva Interactive. I think they were acquired by Rockstar.
Okay, the next one is a no-brainer. Which is the best mobile game in India?
I mean, of course, BGMI.
I was looking for that answer.
I really loved Road to Valor. The way we were able to, collaboratively create the India faction.
Yes.
I believe is an example of how we can actually bring Indian content to the globe, where we have the best development talent globally, even if they're not Indian.
Correct.
Work on the project, bring their expertise into the project, and then we also have a large Indian team who are bringing their inputs to the project and creating a world-class product. So one of my favorite games is a game called Uplink Hacker Elite, which could probably be developed by a single person.
Oh, okay.
The interface of the game is just like a computer.
Oh, okay.
You are sitting on a computer, you are a hacker basically for hire, and you are working on various projects, and then suddenly you are right in the midst of a global conspiracy, which ends up in your arrest and you go to jail. None of that is shown on screen. Everything is like the interface of a computer. But probably one of the best game stories I have played, and you can develop it with a single guy. You don't need
a team.
A huge big team.
Got it.
As long as you have innovative ideas like this.
Correct. But now moving on to more into deeper insights of what Nihansh does at KRAFTON India. Nihansh, you lead corporate development. Yes. So you come from a completely investment banking background.
Yes.
Can you relate investment banking to a gaming ecosystem? How do they merge and how do you align the synergies?
Well, there are obviously certain common factors in any sort of an investment sort of a role, because there are certain common principles that you can apply everywhere. But in creative fields like gaming, like media entertainment, there is a large lead time to development as well. So some of the principles that you would use in a typical startup or a typical company may not be applicable in gaming, because you don't see cash flows for a long period of time. So there is a certain creative judgment that needs to be applied, and there are certain milestones which you need to serve as a proxy for, KPIs for other studios. So there are certain ways you need to modify those principles of investing a little bit, but the broad principles I would say remain the same.
Correct. So if I may say it right, it's more of an objective perspective rather than very data driven or research
data is a part of it. Yes, data and research have to be a part of it. But there is a certain creative aspect that also needs to come in. That's why it helps if you are passionate about the field like me. So you can relate a lot of creative aspects also and bring those also onto the table.
In fact, when you brought about the word passionate, that's a common thread. We spoke to somebody else from your team earlier. So he also mentioned that if you have to thrive in the gaming industry, passion is very, very important.
Absolutely.
So that again is a common thread, and I see that coming across from all of you.
Yes. There's one more thing that you need to think about, which you would typically not do in such a case, and this is more relating to acquisitions, that a lot of gaming companies did not think about when they initially did a lot of their acquisitions, is the fact that the most important aspect of an acquisition is the team, not the product, right? In a typical startup, if you acquire another company, the most important thing you're acquiring is their product, right? Even in the software industry. But that's not the case in gaming. So a lot of startups, this has not happened in India too much because of acquisitions have not been very frequent in the gaming industry, but globally, a lot of acquisitions have failed. Because people fail to realize that the team is the most important asset. So they fail to build structures that keep the team invested with skin in the game in even the acquired company. I think this is something that we as KRAFTON do very well, that we ensure that whoever is the founder of a gaming studio, they continue to be invested and have skin in the game and have stake in the company, which prevents them from looking at maybe putting the studio. And a very famous example of this is BioWare, which faced certain problems because they were a great studio, they built very innovative games, they were pioneers in role-playing games, but unfortunately, because the team did not stay after the acquisition by Electronic Arts, they could not build games to the same level after that.
Talking about media and entertainment, which KRAFTON in India focuses about investing, can you tell us about a couple of opportunities? How do you see the industry evolving from here on?
I think going forward, it's very interesting to be in India in the media entertainment space because it is probably one of the few markets globally where categories are not so well defined.
Okay.
People are not thinking that, hey, I am a gamer. I will only play games.
Okay.
I will not watch Netflix, for example.
Got it. Got it.
Or I will not watch TV.
Got it.
For them, entertainment is entertainment.
It's very fluid.
Right? It's very fluid. A person who you may not classify as a gamer may be somebody who may be interested in your game if you can pitch it to him or her in the right manner. Similarly, if you create great content even outside games, you can market it to people who typically may not watch too much TV, right?
Okay.
It's all about creating content that connects.
Correct.
That is the tough part, right?
A lot of founders right now realize that and are saying that how wealth needs to be created in India locally.
Yes.
What are your thoughts? Because currently the investment ecosystem in general is facing a little, downturn, if I may say it right.
I think we are in the midst of a change where because a lot of startups were focusing on growth, there was a little bit of neglect of building models which were sustainable with the aim of building long-term value. I think that is probably one of the things that you're seeing in the market right now. The reason why people feel that there is a little bit of a downturn. I am actually already seeing green shoots of the next stage of growth, and there is a lot of interest in certain new sectors.
That's
and
great.
The mindset of the entire ecosystem also has changed, that profitability has now become important.
Correct.
I don't think in a growing market like India, it can anytime be, the most important thing.
Okay.
All things have to be important. Growth also has to be important. Profitability also has to be important. But the important thing is that you start keeping it at the back of your mind. That this is also something that I need to think about while building a business.
Correct.
So the new crop of entrepreneurs that are coming in, and some of the older ones also who are now pivoting. Seasoned entrepreneurs. Both of them realize the importance of sustainable unit economics, sustainable business models. Right?
Got it.
So I think the next phase of startups that we're going to see are going to be really great.
Correct. In India currently, with the Shark Tank fever, startup has become a very glamorized word.
Yes.
You work very closely with a lot of startup founders. Yes. But as a part of KRAFTON India, which is a corporate, which is a global conglomerate, how do you differentiate the startup work culture and versus like a KRAFTON India or a KRAFTON working culture?
I would say I find a lot of similarities between the KRAFTON work culture and the startup work culture.
Okay.
Right? It is focused on outcomes, very flat from an organizational perspective. Generally, everybody in the management or everybody senior is very approachable. So I think there are a lot of commonalities between how startups operate in India and how KRAFTON operates in India. If a startup is facing tight funding situation, which is there in some startups in the funding winter, not all of it their own fault. Some startups just started at a bad time probably. But yeah, they have to focus on that as well. I think the lucky thing about KRAFTON is that we have the ability to take much more risks, and that is, you have to do it as a gaming company.
I agree.
So that is probably one difference. But from a work culture perspective, I would say from a lot of other companies that I've worked at as well, KRAFTON's culture is probably the closest to a startup that you can get.
Nice. Talking about risks, how do you do risk assessment? Or it can never so happen that all the judgments are right.
Yes, absolutely.
But there must be a fair amount of assessment you all do before you all jump into a project. So
from our perspective, the risk is more about the company itself, right? The downside is that the company may not do very well.
Correct.
For us, the way we manage that risk is take bets which have very large potential upsides.
Okay.
If the company does well, then it can be probably one of the most disruptive companies in that space. We always try to see that whichever company you invest in has the potential to be the number one in that space, because I think I always say this: the power law in India is already extreme. For media entertainment, it's even more extreme.
Absolutely.
The gap between 1 and 2 is very huge, and 2 and 3 is even bigger, and beyond 3 it's just not, it's, I mean, you might as well be doing something else. So we aim to, when we invest, try to see that if even if some of those sectors have not yet taken off, if they do take off, then that company that we invest in would stand a very good chance of being the number one company in that space.
In KRAFTON parlance, we don't call the underdogs as underdogs, we call them as undergods. So was there any deal like this which you thought was like a very undergod deal, but did wonders? I mean, it exceeded all, our expectations.
One of our portfolio companies is an audio app which is focused on the dating and romance segment, and many people try to stay away from this space primarily because they're already very well established challenges. They try to think of hey, this probably, can a company compete with the biggest companies globally? That's very difficult. Can an Indian company do that? But the key is to understand that there are a lot of there's still a lot of white spaces in this space. A company which can address those, especially in a country like India where there's a very large segment which is not very comfortable in English as well, right? To understand that there's unaddressed need in this market, and there are companies which can actually address those in a very holistic manner. So probably this is one example, and they're doing really well now. So
ladies and gentlemen, that was Nihansh Bhat, who drove us through the entire corporate development and the investment ecosystem in India. It was an interesting conversation, Nihansh. Lovely to see your passion for gaming and your emotions for corporate development. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.